through.
Well, what I want to talk about,
White light is on. Okay.
Yeah, we were talking the other day about solutions, and one of the things that I suggested, you start off saying that, well, we all know what the problem is. We need to find solutions, and I kind of question whether we all know what the problem is.
Yeah, we do. I know. I thought we knew the problems, but you're going to explain this to us, right?
Right, and so one of the problems, as I see it, is that we suffer from what is called an external locus of control. And so,
what?
And so what I like to do is just give you this definition of an internal locus of control and an external locus of control.
So say that again.
Locus.
Locus.
Right.
Internal
locus of control. In other words, who controls your behavior? Is your behavior controlled from the inside out by you, or is your behavior controlled by the outside in from somebody else? Let me give you these descriptions. Let me define these terms. It says people and communities that have an internal locus of control believe through their own persistent effort they can rearrange or change their life conditions without outside approval or assistance. Because they believe deeply that they are the captains of their fate and the masters of their destiny, they feel empowered, optimistic, creative, productive, energetic, and positive. Because of this deep faith in themselves, their people, and hard work, they're willing to take calculated risks to fulfill their dreams. Such people are successful, and such communities are autonomous, wholesome places to live and raise children. On the other hand, people and communities that have an external center of control believe at their core that they cannot arrange their lives and construct their futures without the active approval of and assistance and guidance from external human agencies. Those with an external locus of control look for powerful others to think, legitimize, and provide for them. They are victims of a psychology of dependence, often to the extent that they are willing to place their lives and the lives of their children in the hands of others who they believe will treat them fairly. Because they believe that others are better equipped to make decisions about their fate than they are themselves, they are considered childlike and foolish, worthy of exploitation and abuse by their oppressors. Such people and communities languish in a dependency state, depressed, demoralized, and disenfranchised. The American institution of psychological slavery is predicated on African people maintaining an external locus of control. Through a variety of tactics and strategies like those advocated by Willie Lynch, slave masters shifted the self-perception or locus of control of most captured Africans from that of prisoner of war, which is an internal focus, to accommodating slaves, which is an external focus. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that until we get our own focus right, until we start focusing on developing an internal locus or means of controlling ourselves, we really don't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting out of a particular mess we're in. Because at this particular point in time, somebody else is deciding that which is appropriate for us, the appropriate method of protest, etc., etc. When your enemies decide how you should protest against them, you ain't never going to win. Plain and simple.
Wait. Where'd you get that information from?
This information comes from a piece that is called DWT, D-W-T, a tool for breaking the chains of psychological slavery. This is done by a gentleman named Uruhu Hotep. He's on the East Coast. I believe he works out of Philadelphia, I believe it is. But you can look him up on the internet if you do a Google search for Uruhu Hotep. This brother has some very, very serious, powerful information that I recommend all black folks take a look at and check out. Again, this piece is called DWT, Tool for Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. There's another piece he wrote as well called Decolonizing the African Mind that I highly recommend everybody who sees this to check out.
What's the name? Say that book again?
Decolonizing the African Mind. Neither of these are books. These are just some relatively short papers, about 15, 16 pages that he wrote at a couple of points previously in his career.
You may find them online.
Yeah, you can find them online.
Wow.
And so again, if you just do a Google search
that's phenomenal.
for Uruhu Hotel, YHURU, last name is HOTEP. Do a Google search for Uruhu Hotel. Brother has some really good information that I would highly advise black people to take to get a hold of. So again, I just want to throw that out there as another possible solution that we need to look at. We need to develop an internal focus or locus of control for ourselves instead of being controlled by outside forces.
Well, I got to ask, you're a college professor. How do you do that? I mean, how do you do that when we don't control the media, the education system, actually our religious institutions, the movies we watch? We don't control nothing.
But see, as a parent, you control everything that your child is exposed to. And this is where the hard part comes in.
Yeah.
Because now, as a parent, you have to start making decisions that are in your child's best interest that are going to be unpopular with the rest of society. All right? And so, you have to decide. People have to make decisions as to what they think is in their own best interest.
Like, well, in our family, we don't celebrate Christmas.
Okay. And
my children, they immune to it now, but they have to explain every year to the other students in school why y'all not Jehovah's Witness. So what's the point? What's the problem, y'all? Why come you ain't doing Christmas?
Right. And again, because we're caught up in someone else's. Black people in this country suffer from something called historical and cultural amnesia. We have forgotten who we are, and we have forgotten what our way is. In a place of who we are and what our way in is, our enemies have supplied us with a whole range of images that we can choose from. If you are male, you can be a gangster, you can be a thug, you can be a nigger, you can be a pimp, you can be a player, you can be 50 Cent on the one hand or Clarence Thomas on the other hand, and it really doesn't matter because all of those images are controlled by the forces of white supremacy in this country.
But Professor, they say, no, I think for myself. I think for myself. The people actually believe they think for themselves.
Yeah. It's just like the women with straight hair think they wear their hair like that because they thought it up all by their own self. All right?
The women put the blonde, they make their hair blonde?
Right.
That's their choice, ain't it?
Well, they think that they are choosing that, but what they're actually doing is simply following along with what has already been predetermined for them. See, if straight hair is good hair, you don't have to call this right here bad. It's the opposite of straight. Therefore, it has to be bad, according to that definition. All right? So when you let your enemies define your reality for you, how on earth do you ever expect to get out the mess that they created for you?
But that's part of the culture. The culture is still, the standard of beauty is the blonde woman. So if the more you look like the blonde white woman, the more beautiful you are.
But a black woman will never be a blonde white woman, no matter how hard she tries. Why are we pursuing goals that are impossible to reach and then getting mad and frustrated with ourselves because we can't reach them, and then getting high blood pressure and getting high and trying to do all kinds of things to relieve the tension because we can't be that which we can never be? Why try?
I mean, I wrestle with it. It's tough. It's really tough. I mean, but I think a lot of folks don't wrestle with it. Like our brothers, the brothers love them some white girls. I'm not saying that's wrong per se, but they love them some white girls. Yeah. So you think they're programmed to love white girls?
I think that they have been programmed to see white women as the standard of beauty to which all other women are judged. I think it's a ridiculous standard for black people to put up for ourselves. But unfortunately, because we've bought into the insanity of this society, that's one of the insane things that we buy into. This notion, again, an external locus of control. Someone else is supplying us what our definition of what beauty is. And then we are trying to conform to their definition instead of creating our own definition based on what we think beauty is and coming up with our own standards and dealing with ourselves regardless to whether other people like it, agree with it, or not. When does somebody else come and ask your permission to create rules that are going to benefit them? Do you think they care whether you like it or not?
Professor, in 2011, there are many, probably millions of African American children who still believe that to do well in school is, for lack of a better term, acting white. To do well in school is acting white. That
is the most insane, niggerized concept I've ever heard in my lifetime. That to be intelligent is acting white, to pronounce your words correctly is acting white, to pursue higher education is acting white. Not to sound like some flat-talking ignoramus is acting white. That is the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard of in my life. Why on earth would you let someone else? So if being smart is acting white, does that mean that being dumb is acting black? I mean, is that what this person is trying to say?
They said, well, we naturally can play basketball, we can play sports well naturally, we can dance, we have rhythms, but to be a scientist, a biologist, you know, that's not us.
No, that's not true at all. We're the ones who created all this stuff. That which you do most, you do best. If you study science as much as you play basketball, we would be as good at science as we are at basketball. But that's not what we do. We spend our time playing basketball and don't want to think about science. We're afraid of math, and so we run away from it. All right? We avoid those things that would make us strong and wholesome and embrace those things that make us weak and vulnerable. That is part of the problem of living in an oppressed society, because it turns your entire world upside down.
All right, Professor, before you go, you're not a psychologist.
No.
A psychiatrist, but I got to ask you.
Okay.
Let me ask, maybe I get some real doctors on. But let me ask you, since you're here. I really believe, this is my opinion now, that some people, some parents, mothers, grandmothers, fathers, do not want their children to succeed in this society. Meaning that they don't want them to, you know, go to school, get the best grades, and get a really good job, or move away from them and leave them in the hood.
Unfortunately, that's true. You know, it goes back to the whole crabs in the barrel syndrome of people trying to pull each other down and being jealous and all this kind of stuff about someone else doing 2 seconds better than you are. And again, all this comes as a result of a very poor sense of self-esteem, a very poor sense of an appreciation for who we are as a people, and the fact that we're willing to let someone else define our reality for us instead of us doing those things for ourselves. And, you know, until we are prepared to define those things for ourselves and begin to act on those things, then it's ridiculous for us to assume anything would or could get any better than it already is.
But our reality is defined by popular culture.
That's true. But again, it doesn't have to be. This is something that we allow. It doesn't, there's no one's holding a gun out here saying we have to go along with this stupid stuff. No one is sitting around making those parents let their kids play that poison music in their house and in their car and not say nothing to them. No one is forced to do this kind of stuff. These are choices that people make. And people make these choices in large part because they don't want to be considered an oddball. They want to be in with everybody else. They want to do what everyone else does. They want to fit. And so anytime that your reality has been defined for you by your enemies, and the place that they put for you is the bottom of society, that's the only place, according to your enemies, you are supposed to fit. And so, again, unless and until we decide that we're tired enough of what's being imposed on us and we want to break out and start creating our own standards for ourselves and living up to those standards, then it's foolish for us to assume anything could possibly get better or be different than it already is.
Professor Gimbu Kali, do you have any final thoughts?
I just want to say, parents, you got to be parents to your children. You got to make the sacrifices and you got to make decisions that are in their best interest over and above that which is in the parents' best interest. That it is critically important for men, especially, to spend time with their children. You know, if they're not with the mother, that's one thing, and the financial support is absolutely needed. But it's not a question of simply throwing money at them. It's a question of spending time so that they get an idea of what a man is supposed to be like. A father is a girl's first relationship with a man. And her relationship with her father is going to set the tone on how she deals with men for the rest of her life. If her father respects her, if her father talks to her in a respectful manner, if he ain't grabbing her by the collar and slapping upside the head every other day, then she's going to expect the men that she talks to later on in life to respect her and talk to her in a decent way